Hey buddy, welcome back to the channel and to World of Warships. So today I'm making a quick review of the Tier 5 French destroyer, the Jaguar. So I was able to get the Tier 5 Jaguar and the Tier 6 Geupard thanks to a subscriber of mine who was nice enough to gift me some premium containers. So I want to thank you so much for that. And I have been able to play these two ships for just a couple of matches, but I think I have gotten a pretty good feel for them. And I think I should mention one thing at the start. If any of you guys managed to get this Tier 5 destroyer in one of the missions, then I should probably say that I feel that this ship is not in any way a good representation of the rest of the line. So if you play this ship and you think it's kind of meh or kind of bad, don't really get discouraged by that, because I played the Tier 6 Geupard, and I mean there's such big difference between the Tier 5 and the Tier 6 ship, because at the Tier 6 you can slot the upgraded speed boost module that makes this French speed boost last for, I think, 4.5 minutes. And at Tier 6 it's also the first ship to get the main battery reload booster. And let me tell you guys, that is a game changer. Because that consumable pretty much makes these ships pure destroyer hunter killers, which I will showcase very clearly in my next upcoming video. That is a review of the Tier 6 French destroyer, the Geupard. So make sure you check that video out as well. So just a quick run at the stats here. We have a pretty decent hit pool at this tier. 16,600 hit points. It's one of the best, I think, in this tier. So that is definitely one of the pros of this ship. You also have a pretty decent artillery with main battery consists of 5 130mm guns. There is quite slow reload. I gotten my down to 5.9 seconds, and that is with the basic fire training on my captain. So the base reload is actually a bit longer. The turrets move very slow. If you're maneuvering and kiting, you will have trouble to actually get your guns to train on the target. So I actually experimented a bit with my captain build on the Tier 6, the Geupard, and pretty much decided that I need to run Expert Marksman on that captain. So I'm not really sure how the higher tier ships behave in that manner, but perhaps Expert Marksman is one of the things to use on this ship line. And as you can see, it's pretty lofty, almost American-esque destroyer shell arcs on this ship. And that is also something that I have learned, that when you get up to, I think, Tier 8, you will have much flatter gun arcs or shell arcs on your guns. So that is also something to look forward to when grinding up the line. As you can see, you have pretty decent fire chance on target, which is also one of the big pros of this ship. 10% fire chance. This is me rocking both fire flags, but not Demolition Expert. And also some decent damage actually on these guns. Torpedoes, also pretty standard, but also pretty decent. Pretty standard French destroyer torpedoes, 8 kilometers, 68 knots, 2 sets of 3, 550 millimeters. They do almost 15,000 alpha damage maximum. And the torpedoes are center-lined, so you can launch them both directions. And I have a detectability range at 7 kilometers, and this is not with the Concealment Expert on my captain. With this captain that I have chosen for this ship, I think this is a pretty good representation of a captain at this tier. Not that many players have a 10-point captain when they have grinded the tier 5. So I chosen priority target as my first skill because these ships are very punishing. If you make a mistake, you are pretty much dead. So you really need to know how many ships are targeting you, because if this number goes up, you need to disengage and go dark. But of course you could also choose preventive maintenance, but I think priority target is the way to go. Last stand, of course, that's a given for any destroyer. You should never ever use anything else than last stand as your second captain skill. Third, there are a few options, but I think at this tier, basic fire training, just to get that base reload down as much as possible, is the most bang for the buck, pretty much. Survivability Expert is of course a very good skill, but I think that's more valuable in the higher tier ships, because you don't really gain that much HP pool at tier 5. And of course your hit points are already some of the best in the tier. Superintendent is also pretty much a guaranteed skill to have at the higher tiers, because that will gain you one more main battery reload booster, which pretty much means that you can kill one more destroyer. Demolition Expert, perhaps also an option at the higher tiers, but not really at this tier. And of course next skill I will take on this captain is Concealment Expert, to get my concealment down to I think 6.3 kilometers. But even though I don't have Concealment Expert, I still have the 1 kilometer stealth window to torp. And AA is not really worth to talk about, because it's just crap, pretty much. So, quick rundown of the upgrades. I pretty much use the standard build for a destroyer, main armament, propulsion, and aiming systems. As I said, AA is pretty weak on every one of these ships, so it's not really worth to invest some modules or captain skills for it. And consumables, you only have damage control, party, and speed boost, so of course run premium on those. And camos and flags, you should use anything that boosts your commander XP and regular XP, because you want as much XP as possible on this ship when the full line is getting released, because then you can just research the next ship in line. But I've gone with both fire flags, detonation of course, because otherwise you will blow up quite often. Speed, because that is the trait of the line, and of course Captain XP and regular XP as well. So let's jump into the game, shall we? And it's a pretty standard tier 5 game. It's a standard battle on big race, and we have 2 carriers on both teams. And this is of course something that you will run into quite often playing these tiers, and it's not really much you can do about that, but one thing you should know, and which I will showcase yeah, pretty well in this match is that you have 0 AA on these French destroyers. So you won't really do that well against the carriers. Your only chance is pretty much to try and stay out of their way as much as possible, because trying to shoot down planes is not really worth it. So this was one of the first games, I think my third game in this ship. And something I learned pretty quick in this game was that this ship, this tier 5 Jaguar, shouldn't really be played in the way that you have been seeing the higher tier French destroyer played. Because you can't really gunboat in the open and engage target from range in this ship. Instead, you should actually play the Jaguar like you would play a mid-tier American destroyer. As you can see, I have pretty lofty shell arcs and pretty decent fire chance. So try and use the islands at these lower tier maps to your advantage as much as possible, because you can actually sit behind many of these islands and just lob shells over and set the enemy ships on fire, that you will see me doing a little bit in this game. But in the start of the game I actually thought that I should play it more aggressive, like I play my French cruiser, the Henri, and which you probably should play like the higher tiers French DD, like Kleber and Mogador. So I was actually trying to gunboat a bit in the beginning here, but as you will see, even though I get focused a whole lot by both the surface ships and also the both carriers of this game, I will actually have a quite decent game for a tier 5 tech tree ship. So I start to engage this Acasta that is moving in, trying to take him out of the game, out of the equation as quickly as possible. And this is something that you will learn when watching my next video about the tier 6 French destroyer, that you really excel at killing off other DDs. That is pretty much your job in the French destroyer line. And don't get fooled about the main battery reload booster, because you should never ever waste a reload booster for a cruiser or a battleship in these destroyers unless you are able to secure a kill on an enemy ship. Those main battery reload boosters are for one thing and one thing only, and that is to kill enemy DDs. And you do. You do that really effective. Something I will showcase also in my next video. So here you see me just sitting behind an island trying to be undetected, but I get spotted in the gaps between the islands. But I'm just trying to lob some shells over at these pushing cruisers and battleships, and also launching my pretty decent French torpedoes. And this is actually quite effective way to play this ship, to get the more damage output as possible. Because, as I said before, you can't really gunboat in the open because you don't have the tankiness or the range to do so. These low-tier battleships and cruisers will blap you pretty hard. So I'm just trying to switch from target to target, trying to set some fires, hopefully persuade some of the enemy ships to back off and turn around, because our ships are dying really fast and really hard on this flank. It's only me and Jaguar and the October Revolution left. I see this Russian battleship pushing through, so of course I will try and get some of my torpedoes on him as well. It looks like he's slowing down, so I'm launching a bit before the prediction line. And then I turn my attention to this foot attack instead. And of course the enemy carrier comes in to strike me. You will see this quite a lot in this match. They apparently have done their homework. They know that the French DDs don't have any AA. So I will get focused quite a lot from the enemy carriers. So I managed to secure my first kill on the Russian battleship with my torps. And I'm up to 55,000 damage done, which is quite respective number at tier 5, but I'm far from done in this match. I'm only warming up. But as you can see, I have pretty much lost all my support on this flank, so I'm pretty alone against these destroyers and cruisers. So I need to fall back a bit. But I'm trying to delay the enemy push as much as possible, because as you can see, I'm the only guy pretty much between the enemy team and our two carriers. And I don't want those two guys to get overrun. And here comes another strike. As you can see, the damage number up in the top right corner towards the enemy planes is not really anything to write home about. Actually managed to land a citadel on that tier 4 Danier, which was quite surprising, but of course these low tier cruisers don't really have that much armor, and I have 130mm guns on this ship, so they are actually quite decent. Apparently the higher tier French destroyers also have some special kind of AP penetration and ballistics. So they should actually be quite decent at killing off low health cruisers as well, especially light cruisers. But at the start I should really recommend you trying to use your main battery reload booster as much as possible to just kill off enemy destroyers, because that is what you are best at. Landing some extra additional fires on a cruiser or battleship is something that you will be able to do anyway, so don't really have to waste your consumable on that one. So as you can see, I'm getting constantly focused by the enemy carriers, also fighting these two cruisers. So I'm just trying to do as much possible without dying here, pretty much. I'm not really sure if I should have switched to armor piercing, since he was broadsiding me pretty much, but it's that German trollish turtleback armor. That said, it was just a Königsberg, so not really that well armored. I could probably have gotten a better effect if I used AP at those last 2 salvos. So I'm getting pushed by this enemy Furutaka, and still the game is actually quite even. Both teams have 4 ships each, and the enemy team only leads about 25 points. But I'm really low health at this point, and I really need this Furutaka to die. I launched my torps towards him, and just trying to set some additional fires, and I managed to land both fire and a torp with flood. So of course I forced him to use his damage con. So now it's just me trying to survive long enough to actually secure the kill. And there you go. Kill number 3, and I'm up to 93,000 damage done. But I'm not done yet. Even though 93,000 is quite a respectable number at tier 5 silver ship, you can actually pump out quite more damage in this tier 5. And as I said before in this video, this is actually one of the weakest ships of the line that I have played so far. I haven't played the tier 2 to tier 4, but I have played the tier 6, and the tier 6 is so much better than this one. So I see a quite big potential in this line, but I also think that this line is not for everyone. This is not a line for the casual World of Warship player. I would say, being a DD main since close beta testing, I think this line actually probably has the highest skill ceiling of all the destroyer lines in the game. But if you understand how to play destroyers, and you understand how to play these destroyers to their strength, I think you have a massive potential in these ships. And they are really fun. They share a lot of the fun traits of their French cruiser counterparts. So I think I see a big potential in these ships, and it's gonna be really fun to be able to try out the higher tier ships later on when they get released as well. But as I said, I think it's gonna be a tough ship to master. I think any small mistake that you will make in this ship will cost you dearly. But I mean, if you manage to make them work, you're gonna have such a fun time. So I managed to set up a pretty nice ambush on this French battleship, the Britann. And yeah, well, there you go. High caliber, Confederate, devastating strike. 128,000 damage done in a tier 5 Tech 3 destroyer. Yeah, this line has some potential. Unfortunately, now it's only me and the carriers left. I can't really go for the cap, I can't really go for the carriers, because they will only kill me, and well, they pretty much have secured my kill already, because they will just do these relentless attacks on me until I'm dead. And I can't really defend myself because I don't have any kind of AA. But I'm still trying though. But in the end, this Langley lands the final death blow. And what is left is very boring and very tedious 4 minutes of 2 CVs versus 2 CVs, where pretty much nothing happens. And unfortunately, even though all the work I did in this game, 9 fires, 7 torpedoes, 4 floods, 4 kills, high caliber Confederate, devastating strike and almost 130k damage done, we will lose about 20 points to the red team. So I will just fast forward to the end. Now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the last post-battle screen result, the one with the XP and credits, but it was quite a decent game, as you can see by this screenshot. So we landed at 128,000 damage done, 4 kills, 9 fires, high caliber Confederate and devastating strike. And looking at the team score, you can see I managed to get 1077 base XP. So actually, even though I was on the losing side, I was number 1 in the entire match. I even beat out the very good Langley player on the winning team. So yeah, that was quite fun. And of course, damage report. And here you can see that I fought quite hard against many of the opposition, both destroyers and battleships and cruisers. I tanked 360,000 damage in a destroyer with 15,000 health pool, and did some spotting and stuff as well. So I hope you like this review of the Tier 5 French destroyer, and as I said before, stay tuned for my next video that will showcase the Tier 6 Geupard, and let me tell you, that ship is a game changer. It's quite funny, and I can clearly see the potential of this French destroyer line. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be able to see that game as well. And I hope I see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a good one. Bye bye.